Количество, да? 34 уже.
Да. Hello, Valerie, Tatiana, do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think people are coming, so maybe we can start.
I think so. I will give a microphone to Valerie.
Okay. Allow me to do a short introduction. This is Yuchen from DJI speaking, and welcome everybody for joining today's webinar on mapping and serving. And today's topic is going to be how RTK drones can help to avoid mistakes in mining industry. The presenter is DroneUA team, and DroneUA team is one of our most professional partner in Ukraine. And before we start, I have several points to emphasize. First is that the webinar recording of today's webinar will be sent the day after the webinar by email to everybody. And for us to better support you, we would like to invite you to participate in a quick survey. The link will be sent to everybody as well. And about the free DJI Terra trial code and the trial version of Cloud PBK service, our sales representative will email you in 3 months. Email you a 3 months Terra code within a month after the webinar. And the registrant of the webinar will receive a 20% discount on any DJI Terra code purchased before the end of July. So I will give the microphone to DroneUA team, and I think we can start. Larry and Tatiana, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. It is a pleasure to have an opportunity to share our experience with DJI Enterprise team, and thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, I'd like to thank DJI for releasing extremely nice products and solutions for different industry, and today we will talk about mining industry. I'll share a couple of words about DroneUA and about us as speakers and presenters, and after all, you will receive a lot of very important information and useful information from Tatiana, one of our best experienced persons, and I definitely love the projects that we do and that she does. First of all, as a DroneUA team, we have established a lot of time ago, and I must emphasize that without DJI, it is almost non-possible to perform any kind of really professional any kind of really professional possibilities, any kind of professional solutions, and DJI actually provides you an opportunity to have the best hardware, the best software, and the best support of the equipment. So let's use it. And as a DroneUA, we work not only in the mining industry, where we have definitely one of the best experience in our region, but we also work in agriculture, in different kind of inspection jobs, in energy, and in surveying jobs. And we have within our team our own pilots teams that actually can test our equipment and perform some jobs for our clients if needed, and we understand how it works from the beginning. So this is an information that we have is just an information that we have from the experience of the projects that we are working in. And I'd like to pass my word to Tatiana, and she will continue with her presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you at this webinar. And my name is Tatiana Kondratenko, and I'm head of survey department in DroneUA. I've been in this business for 5 years and have background in geodesy and photogrammetry, and find it really exciting how drones meet demands of huge enterprises, which cannot be solved by using traditional methods anymore. Mining has always been about accuracy and safety, and I believe that drones are a perfect tool to meet these requirements, so it would be ridiculous not to use them in this industry. And we've proved it, and now I'm going to share with you how we did it. This webinar consists of 3 main sections, and I would like to start with main challenges for mining for better understanding of the industry, and afterwards I will move to the best enterprise solutions, and definitely the most interesting part is about case studies, challenges, and solutions. When we speak about mining, it's always about rough terrain and hard to reach areas. Firstly, it takes time to get to the specific area. Secondly, we shouldn't forget about bureaucracy, even inside enterprises, when it's needed to receive loans to enter some territory for safety reasons. Thirdly, rough terrain has hazardous conditions, and its impact on quality of surveying works. I've had a lot of situations when surveyors interpolated data of areas where they were not able to complete measurements. A good thing is that people care about safety, but the bad one is that inaccurate data lead to wrong planning. In terms of time, surveyors should try to receive as many information about surface as he or she can in short terms. But even though there is need to minimize downtime of large equipment, for example, stopping of all equipment during work on an open pit for up to only 30 minutes is a loss of tons of dollars. So it's all about balance between accuracy and safety, and data efficiency and time. And definitely UAVs meet all these requirements and give an opportunity to minimize action of personnel in the industrial zone, but even they are not perfect, and I would like to tell you more about it. And at the very beginning, it was difficult to prove that drones may be used at mining sites due to unsuccessful experience of clients with other drones of other providers. And it was not even about the data accuracy, which is definitely the top question of any surveyor, but about sustainability of performing operations. And the good thing is that DJI drones performed operations perfectly at almost any environment, even at the magnetic interference conditions at the very bottom of an iron ore open pit at minus 400 meters below ground level, under severe conditions, under below zero temperatures, dusty areas, and a lot of other situations. So let's move to DJI Enterprise solutions. And I believe that you are well familiar with these 2 drones. And a few weeks ago, there was a series of webinars devoted to DJI solutions in aerial survey. And the truth is that from whole range of drones which we use to complete measurements, only these 2 birds are still on top. Phantom 4 RTK is our working horse and even herd of horses, and one of the most economical solutions in terms of cost and amount of field operations per month. And Matrice 210 RTK is a robust solution for trouble-free operations even in the complicated environment. And it's difficult to overestimate the value of RTK coordinates of the image sensors during flight, and airbag from PPK, post-processing kinematic data, which is always available after each flight. But despite all these advantages, there are still concerns of using this type of equipment. And vast majority of mistakes, even using RTK drones, are hidden there, according to our experience, definitely. First one is arbitrary coordinate system. And we should pay attention to coordinate transformation from worldwide coordinate system, VGS 84, which is used by drone, to a local coordinate system. And we usually complete this step before photogrammetry processing to receive results right in needed coordinate system. And the second one is influence of camera calibration parameters, because it influences on height accuracy. And it's important not only include these parameters to project, but also to set up an appropriate settings for photogrammetry processing in any photogrammetric software you use. And here is a general workflow of the processing procedure using RTK drones. And we start with camera calibration, then image acquisition. Afterwards, we move to PPK processing if it is needed. After this step, we move to transformation of coordinates. And on the afterwards, photogrammetry processing can be completed. Data integration is an important part of this workflow, and to be honest, sometimes this step takes the most amount of time because every mining site has its own system, and most of them don't support drone data. But the good thing is that each year I observe that more and more software which supports drone data and is available to provide whole picture of site for customers, but not only dots and lines. And now the most exciting part, it's case studies, and I will share with you 4 different examples of 4 customers with different challenges. And I'm happy to represent the first case study. It's Cement Roadstone Holding, is one of the biggest building materials procedures in the world. And one of those plants is situated in Ukraine. The main challenge here is to measure stockpiles for one day, and it's about 13 objects outside and some objects inside covered warehouses. Main difference between our measurements and measurements of local surveyors was that surveyors didn't always have time to remeasure everything and could lose some changes in volume. Meanwhile, drones complete inventarization of the whole territory just in 30 minutes. But surveyors usually failed at hard-to-reach areas during comparison of our methods. And we failed, we should be honest to ourselves also, at the territory with black materials and shadow territories because of noisy 3D reconstruction. But at the very beginning with this particular object, we doubled work of the survey, but afterwards, when the client became persuaded about the accuracy of the technology, we started sharing working together. The local surveyor completed measurements inside warehouses, and we measured everything at the open areas. Working together with the surveyor's team could meet deadline within 1 day. And now we move on to our second case study. It's Virivsky Quarry, is a producer of a wide range of building materials, its stone products, asphalt mixes, and so on. So there is a lot of materials with different fractions which should be accounted. And also there is need to calculate excavated materials after blast operations. The main challenge is to complete measurements of the whole area in 200 hectares within 1 day, also as at the previous case study. Definitely for drones, it's not a big deal contrary to traditional survey methods, but let's move on. And here are about 50 stockpiles which should be measured at measured once per month or twice per month. You know, you can see it on the slide. And when we started collaboration, we didn't have RTK drones. So to complete measurements, we have used ground control points. And as a result, the results of this photogrammetric processing were in a needed coordinate system. But ground control points might be shifted, or at dusty areas, they might be invisible, which is very common in such areas and happened from time to time. So using RTK drones helped us to use ground control points only for control purposes. And there is no harm for the project if some of them were not found during processing. So, by the way, so we move on to I would like to compare the results which were received by traditional survey method and photogrammetry. And looking at the upper picture, let's try to imagine how many time surveyors spent on measuring of one heap. And afterwards, as you remember, there were about 50 stockpiles, so we should multiply it on 50. But even though it wouldn't be possible to achieve such results like using photogrammetry with drones, which is shown at the picture below. And let's see how surveyors measurement overlay point cloud of drone. And you will see that there are areas which were not included into volume calculation by surveyor. But in terms of accuracy, difference between these two methods in this particular case is up to 1%. It's because it's really highly qualified surveyors team at this quarry. And to calculate excavated materials using RTK drones is even more essential because measurements are performed between surfaces which were acquired for different data. And receive accurate results, and if we want to receive accurate results, they must fit each other perfectly. And RTK got closer to this purpose. I don't tell that we receive the most accurate data in the world, but because all measurements have the errors, and the main question is if these errors are acceptable or not. And RTK drones meet these demands in the best way I've ever met. That's how calculation between surfaces look like, and you can see the area where blast operations were conducted. And definitely having such instrument helps to control everything on site, and it excludes personnel from the site. At this object, we double measurement with surveyor team and for control purposes. But a lot of other customers who use drone by themselves complete this kind of measurements by drones only. And definitely all this data can be integrated to data management system to have an opportunity to share all this data. And now you see a 3D picture of mining site and the result of blasting operation, volume calculation. You can click everywhere and receive information about fraction, volume, and mass also. And about mass, actually. And I've told you a lot about volumes, and we should keep in mind that how much these materials cost. And inaccurate results lead to inappropriate accounting. So the final purpose is not volume calculation, but to transform it into mass using indices of different fractions. I think that I've shown you a lot of beautiful pictures, 3D models, and I would like to back you to reality. And here is an example of volume measurement of one plant. And as you see here, I used simplified structures and tried to imagine if it would be the only data which you could receive from the mining site. But the truth is that sometimes the situation on site is so complicated that it's not possible to complete all needed measurements from the ground. And now I will show you this site. Here is the site of the plant, one of the biggest manufacturer, Metinvest. It has assets, different assets in steel mining quarries and plants for reproducing all these materials afterwards. And as you see, here is quite a lot of complicated structures. And I will show you the photo from the ground to show you how many dust areas there is, and also there is a lot of smoke, which makes very difficult ground measurement using traditional survey methods and total stations. And also, it's difficult to use here ground control points because it's almost impossible to find the place where they can be placed. And also it's impossible to keep them clean to be visible at the photos afterwards. So RTK drones here are essential because we still need to receive accurate results, but we cannot use ground control points. And actually, why should we use drones here? And I would like you to get in closer to one of these stockpiles, and you'll see how this stockpile, the shape of this stockpile. Okay, yes, I persuaded that now you see this slide, and you see that this surface cannot be represented in simple forms. And now you see the same stockpile which was on the previous slide, but in another visualization, and with the representation of the local surveyor team using simplified forms. And it's really difficult to see how it can meet the reality and transform and perform be used for measurements. And here is another example. I just wanted to show you how it looks like in reality in 3D point cloud and what we can receive about the territory around of this stockpile. And now you see how it looks like in simplified form also. And I would like to draw your attention that in the base of this simplified form is 14 meters length. And when we look at this stockpile from the top, we can see that 14 meters is only on the one side of the stockpile, and it's completely different at another side. And here is even one more example, which is the form, in my opinion, is the most complicated. And it's please pay attention to the amount of points which we can receive during volume calculation and the amount of points which local surveyor teams can receive. And it's even difficult to compare these kinds of data. And we move on to the last case, which is about one of my favorite clients. And to be honest, they became my favorite client because it was the most difficult to provide the first test with them, because they were not sure in drone technology at all, because there is a lot of magnetic interference. And definitely it's that client where they had a lot unsuccessful experience with other drones. And to prove that drones are safe, we proved that drones are safe instrument with this client. And when we tried to use all other kinds of drones, and apart also retail drones like Phantom 4 Pro or Mavic 2 Pro, and all these drones failed because when they tried to perform flight or mission, they were compass error, and they were not able to perform an operation. But Matrix 210 RTK is the only drone which was able to perform operations safely. And during the 1 year of exploration and even more time, there were not any unexpected situations with this kind of drone and model. And here is everything I wanted to share with you about using RTK drones at mining sites. And I will be really happy to see your questions and answer them.
Additionally, I'd like to emphasize that yesterday we've seen another drone, the Matrix 300 series, that actually is one of the best tools I ever saw. Definitely we are waiting for the possibilities to use it in quarries for the photogrammetry. At the moment, it is a perfect inspection solution, but I believe that within third-party payloads, it will be used in mining quarries as well. So I'm asking you to fill the form that you have and ask a question, so we can continue to the questions and answers section. I'd like to emphasize that this was an experience that we got from the mining sites using drones in Ukraine. For this year, we expect to perform even more projects, even more jobs. So, one more thing to mention, that drones is just a solution to work on this, to collect the data, but it is not everything. As Tatiana mentioned from the beginning, the whole process is about the whole process is about to use drones to collect the data. After it, you have to process it in the correct software, and after that, you have to analyze it and implement it correctly. Just now, you will see the slides in a couple of seconds when we are talking about the workflow. And here you see, after data collection and data acquisition, you have to process it in the correct way. Before you import it to the software that you will use, you are working with, after it, you will work in additional software, and Tatiana will share different software types that actually are popular in Ukraine. It is about Pix4D equipment, it is about Agisoft software, it is about new software that we have this year. This is DJI Terra, and right now we will continue on this question.
And there is a question: which photogrammetry software do we use to process the data? And here in Ukraine, there is a wide variety of photogrammetric software which can be used, and it's always about taste of the specialist who will process this data. We've started using DJI Terra recently as it was launched, and we've started using we're using it at different sites. Also, we had very good experience with Pix4D software because it's able to use different kinds of coordinate systems and to obtain data. But at this slide, I would like to draw your attention that for PPK processing and transformation of image centers coordinates, photogrammetric software cannot be used. So there is, to transform coordinates from one coordinate system to another, there is need to use another specialized software for this to complete these transformations. This second question is, what is accuracy obtained against checkpoints in this project using Matrix 200? And what all payloads were used? Actually, at this particular project, we've used Matrix 210 RTK of the first version. So we didn't receive the corrections from the base station. And we checked the accuracy using ground control points and checkpoints. So we are planning to check the accuracy of Matrix 210 RTK at this place in this year, and I hope I will be ready to share with you these results. Another question is, how many days of processing did you need to complete? Actually, the process of photogrammetry processing, it's more it's more automatic. It can be completed in automatic way. The only thing which we need to do properly is to set appropriate parameters for the processing. You see, when you've set the wrong parameters at the very beginning, and you waited, for example, for 5 hours or 6 hours for this automatic processing, you will need to redo this job afterwards. So usually, for example, this site, for example, if we take this site, to complete processing of this site photogrammetry part takes about 5 hours or up to 5 hours, but to complete measurements it may take several hours also, but here is only 13 objects. To complete measurements at this object Verivsky quarry, where is the now you will see this slide where is about 50 stockpiles. There is also needed to perform photogrammetry processing can be performed during several hours. It's up to 5 hours also. But to calculate the volume of all these stockpiles and to identify and to set base surface for each stockpile, it takes a lot of time, and it's manual work which should be included during volume calculation. So here it may take up to 1 day or 2 days, because sometimes we even take time to clarify some information about the site with local surveyor, because there is a lot of things which are not obvious from only the images. So to this clarifying and setting base surfaces may take from 1 to 2 days for such territory. And if we move on to the measurements on the plant, where is difficult structures and a lot of different shapes of the volumes, I would tell that here is needed much more time to set best surfaces, to identify the difference between when the one volume, when the one material starts and another, to understand where is each one kind of material. It also takes time. So the biggest part which takes the most time is to identify base surfaces and to identify these volumes and materials. And Valery asks me about time, and here it took me maybe 3 days, but it was only because it was difficult for me, taking into account that I'm not worker from this plant, to identify what exactly should be measured. And there is no obvious boundaries of all these materials. And we are moving to another question. And it's here. What actual benefits do mining companies receive from drones, capture data, and 3D models? And actually, for me, it's they receive a lot of benefits, and really I see on the pluses and advantages, because it really helps to increase productivity at the mining site. But these 3D models helps to receive the information about site in general, because as I showed you some simplified structures, it's not clear where this material were placed. And when you see this 3D model, it's possible to see and check what kind of materials was at this place, how many materials were moved to another part, so to control all this transportation system. And this 3D models gives an opportunity to receive the whole information about mining site. And Valery would like to add something.
Yeah, so it's about benefits. For the big size companies, you always have to understand the need to get benefit at speed of the processing on the plant or on the facility. It is about economics that you actually can achieve, and it is about safety. So about speed, drones definitely are not comparable to the classic methods of surveying on the mining side, and they are much faster. One of the important thing on the mining side is that drones are not freezing up all the operations on the mining side. So all the trucks, all the machinery continues to work without a necessity to stop their operations, and this gets back with the benefits of thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of non-stopping the machinery to work. Additionally, about safety, and this is a calculation actually was shared during DJI Enterprise roadshow in Kyiv this autumn in September. And one of our speakers was the IT director of Metinvest, and he shared an information that around 19 cases was being able not happen with the risks just because companies started to use drones. I think I will share this information with you as well. So I'd like to pass back to Tatiana for the next question.
And here I am. And the next question is what device and application we are using to program missions and flight. And taking into account that we use Phantom 4 RTK and Matrix 210 RTK, we use DJI applications, and I should admit that ground station RTK, which is on the Phantom 4 RTK, is maybe one of the best applications which can be used to plan missions. And it's true, it's not marketing or something like this, because there is a lot of useful features, and it faces the necessity, the demands to these kinds of works. Yes, and Valery.
Okay, actually, I want to come back a little bit for okay. I want to come back a little bit for the previous question about the benefits of 3D models that mining companies can get using modern technologies. Well, in Ukraine, it is a little bit specific situation. We are post-Soviet country, post-Soviet Union country, and we have some kind of classic workflows on the different industries, and effectiveness of each industry is really affected by the человеческий factor, human factor. And sometimes we encounter situations when the mining site doesn't know the proper data of the stocks they have, about the base level they have, because it was always being collected by men and by humans. There was no system, no centralized database to understand base volumes and differences between extraction or obtaining additional materials from the pit. And drones was one of the tools that actually can exclude the effects of human factor, and for the pit side or for the mining quarry management to understand the real data that can be put in their management system, management platform, and to collect correct results regularly. When we have started to work in 2013, we've met a lot of different industrial clients in mining industry as well. And there was a story when we've tried
to promote drones as a tool for the surveyors on the mining site. And we've got understanding that actually local companies doesn't like this equipment because it shows real data in almost real time, and there is almost no possibility to manipulate with it. So drones can exclude the fact of the human factor, human mistakes during measurement operations on the mining site. So this was my addition to the previous question, and I'd like to share Tatiana with the next.
Yes, here is a lot of so interesting question, and we with Valery choose which one to answer first, and here is actually the next one. We didn't choose anything. And can the drones be used to determine the depth of soil that can be mined? And how about calculate, cut, and fill? Yes, we've had such kinds of work, and it's similar to the works which were conducted at Virivsky quarry, because when we calculate excavated material, it's cut operations. And when we calculate volume, it's about filling. So the idea is the same. We receive surface using drones and photogrammetry processing, and we need to set the base surface, which we'll use as the base from which we will calculate cut and fill volumes. And the next question is, how many completed successful cases does your team process by far? And it's really difficult to answer these questions because according to all, it's all about communication with clients and local surveyors team. And if everything with this communication is okay, the case will be successful. And actually, all the cases when we've started using drones for volume calculations, they finished successfully. It doesn't mean that we didn't have errors or we didn't have mistakes in volume calculations. We definitely had them, and we still have them sometimes. But it's all about communication with local surveyor team, because there is some specific which we should hear from the client. And sometimes they forget to tell us about this specific, about different stockpiles and volumes, like on the slide, which you can see. And for example, it's not clear sometimes where is the base surface, and we need to determine these facts from with the local team.
To understand actually quantity of performed jobs, we need to understand that we are DJI Enterprise distributor and importer to Ukraine. We have our own jobs performed by our teams, and we also have a lot of different clients who actually perform jobs by themselves. By our own facility, we have done more than, I think, 120 projects so far, and this is only Ukrainian projects at the moment. Also, we have some projects from the European Union, from the Latvia, and additionally even have now projects from Kazakhstan with the same kind of jobs. Technology using drones in mining actually spreading worldwide. It doesn't need to be proven as an accurate because a lot of projects are showing right now that the data is accurate and comparable with the classical methods. So it is a lot. And
back to the question.
And here is a question: how much does inspection?
What?
Yes, and here is the question: How have you tried to make vertical photogrammetry for facade inspection, and what kind of overlap and distance from the facade you set? Actually, we had similar project at the plant, and the territory, if you see the picture, was almost the same. And afterwards, I can share with you, if you leave your contacts, these examples. It's in collaboration with one of our partners we completed, because they were used several methods apart from drones, and we've used facade image acquisition plans. And actually, I should admit that it's always in manual mode, can be conducted in manual mode because of these complex structures, and we cannot rely on automatic flight at different obstacle avoidance sensors. So concerning overlap and distance from facade, overlap should be about 90% to receive all these thin structures of this facade, if we speak about definitely such kind of plant. But when we conducted facade photogrammetry for some buildings, historical buildings, it was sufficient on about 80% overlap and 80% forward and side lap. And about distance, it's always about compromise between safety and detalization, because we should stay at safe distance from the facade, and at the same time we should receive the appropriate ground sampling distance of the object. So usually, if we have an opportunity to fly closer, we usually fly up to 20 meters to the object. But it always depends on the situation on site. And the next, Valery wants to answer.
Easily. I just cut the Tatiana microphone, I'm sorry. So the question that we have is, how much did the inspection service cost? Well, due to the fact that we have an international webinar on that, and we have visitors from the whole world, and actually not only from Russia or from Ukraine, the data about the cost of such jobs will be not correct, because the manpower in every country actually costs differently. For Ukrainian situations, at the moment we have one of the lowest manpower costs in Europe, definitely lower by times than in US, and our numbers will be not so representative. But definitely you have to understand that for this kind of jobs, you have to not forget to use equipment. Amortization. Okay, so the use equipment has to be amortized, and for each flight you have to understand that the cost has to be put in the price for the final client. For the mining operations, the flight data and the flight process and the processing process are equally important for the whole data. So I'd like to say that in a manpower cost, it is being divided 50 by 50. So in each project, 50% it is a salary or a cost of the job that has to be sent to the data processing team, and another half is for the pilot structure or for your remote operator team. So this is how we divide it. So this is it. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, what is the best combination of hardware and software for such projects? Is P4 RTK and Pix4D or Matis 210 and Pix4D? Did you use DJI Terra for these projects? First of all, I'd like to emphasize that Tatiana has already mentioned that different clients has different needs, and at the moment all software can be used, but some software suits more, some software suits less. Something is better working with some kind of coordinates that only clients have. Something is can process imagery faster. But definitely, I'd like to share these questions to Tatiana and mention that from the all softwares that we have right now on the market, DJI Terra develops with the fastest speed, and we see that with each update there was more functions added, and with each update this software become more and more compatible with everything else. So I'm passing these questions to Tatiana about our experience.
Какое программное обеспечение мы используем, что лучше?
Okay, and concerning software, and here it's several projects we've used Pix4D software, and definitely because at that time when we started using this technology for mining, there were only few leaders of photogrammetry software for drones, and currently we are testing DJI Terra for new mining sites to receive better data. And the next question is, speaking of accuracy, is this method somehow calibrated, and is there any methodology to check and confirm accuracy of precision of the precision of the process? Definitely, there is a lot of methodologies which you can find all over the internet, and there are different methodologies how the camera can be calibrated by users, and also I should admit that a lot of research universities are still working on camera calibration of drones, because it's a hot topic, taking into account that there are so small cameras, and they have so sensitive internal parameters which should be calibrated and taken into account. But anyway, camera calibration helps to increase height accuracy because of focus lengths. And concerning methodology, there is no answer or one answer for now, because this question is still under discussion.
Я добавлю.
Methodology about the precision of the process or of the results. We are always using, okay, first of all, we even using RTK built-in drones, we are still using the rover stations. This is we are doing always to collect the data from the facility. Before we used it for the post-processing, and now we are using to understand the quality of our data. Honestly, I don't trust on drones everything. So I always want to collect an information to understand if I'm correct or not. So during jobs, we are always placing some kind of ground control points, and we are not using them during the processing. We are using them to understand the errors and the precision of the data that we have collected. So our advice, my personal advice, is always use ground control points, at least some of them during the job. This will help you to understand if there are no mistakes done during data acquisition or within analytical process, and you will have this data to transform centers of imagery coordinates. This is important process, so you have to use this data to perform this process. And additionally, when you are working with a client, with the final user of this data, you have a proof of the accuracy of the job that you have performed. Always collect checkpoints. And my personal, actually, not questions, but advice for the DJI. We really like rovers that we are receiving of RTK, DRTK2 antennas. So we would like to have them. It's really complex solutions for the surveying jobs. I definitely believe that they will release it. I hope that they will. We need it. So let's move to the next question. The next question is, here is email for examples, and okay, we have it. We will say it, send an information to you guys from Italy, and also we'd like to share with you additional examples of facade facade inspections. So we will send it to you as well. And we have one more question. What device and app are you using generally to program the missions and to fly? Well, first of all, I'd like to share my opinion, and I will pass these questions to Tatiana as well, because she has more practice. I have more vision. With DJI, we have unique opportunity to work in the whole same system, from the equipment that is flying to the software that is processing the data, and even with the PPK software that can help us to process the centers of coordinates for using PPK. So within the whole process, you are working with the same brand and with the same process, with the same equipment. And my personal vision is that even for planning, it is much better to use DJI software. It can be ground control station, or it can be DJI Terra for flight planning. But my opinion is that we have to switch to this software. And from my personal practice understanding is that the pilot who is collecting the data has to have everything installed on their tablets or phones. All possible software has to be installed for the pilot, because you never know what will happen on the site. This is an IT, intellectual technologies, and there is always a chance that you will receive some kind of updates, important updates during the flight or in the date of the flight. And for example, for our work, our office in the Kiev, but sometimes, usually we have jobs around all Ukraine. And for the certain parts of Ukraine, you have to drive around 6 hours long. And during this process, when pilot drives on the mining pit, sometimes there are situations that software doesn't work to plan a flight. In this case, you have to get a possibility to fly in another software.
I agree.
Tatiana is agreeing, but she will add something to this reply as well.
Yes, I can only add that when we didn't use Phantom 4 RTK or Matrix 210 RTK, we definitely needed to use third-party software, because there is a lot of opportunities to plan different kinds of missions, and it was useful. But to be honest, since we've started using Phantom 4 RTK and Matrix 210 RTK, I even forget about all other kinds of applications. And we haven't used any for a long period of time, maybe because this software which is provided with this solution covers all needed aspects, and there is no need to think up something new. And here is,
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to add that we've invited a lot of our Ukrainian and Russian colleagues, clients, to this webinar, and probably for some of you, the English language is not very common. So you might miss some information or some ideas that we had. And I think that we will record the same webinar and that we'll take the same information in Russian language and share with you guys. So just keep in mind that you will not miss anything. And as you've already seen from the questions during the webinar, that the video recorded will be provided for you in 24 hours. And okay, this is a question that I was waiting. The RTK2 antenna is able to take GC? Okay, good. So guys, please ask any additional questions. I'm here with you. I'm looking. Okay, here are some more. And I will answer this question. This one is really nice. That's it. Tatiana?
And the question is, in your opinion, what is the maximum area of scanning of Phantom 4 RTK is recommended? 1 square kilometer, 10 square kilometers, or 20 square kilometers? You know, it's always depends on the area and on the detalization which you would like to receive. For example, when you fly at 250 meters, it's about 7 centimeters per pixel. You may cover an area up to 150 hectares per one flight. So if you want to cover bigger areas, you just need to take more batteries and complete other operations. And using Phantom 4 RTKs, here it is not clear if it's about you know, speaking about Ukrainian reality, for mining sites, it's the territory are not very big. They can be the most kinds of quarries are up to 2 hectares, and there are some large enterprises like Metinvest and Ferrexpo who has much bigger areas. And taking into account the dusty areas, Phantom 4 RTK is not the best solution for their areas. But if we speak about Ukraine as an agriculture country, where is a lot of fields which should be measured using Phantom 4, using drones and using Phantom 4 RTKs, we've a lot of examples when we've covered areas much more than 20 square kilometers. And for example, previous week, my colleagues went back to the office with information about 4,500 hectares, and it's not the biggest object, it's just average object of field work or in agriculture industry in Ukraine. So there is not, you know, upper boundary. It's always up to the project and the economical side. If it is efficiently to use Phantom 4 RTK for this area and to receive this data or not.
I'd like to add something from our experience using Phantom 4 equipment to scan areas. And the biggest project that we have done is 120,000 hectares that we scanned with Phantom 4. We did it for during 45 days, seems to me. Almost 2 months of work, but the territory that we scanned using Phantom 4 was enormous. And we understood that time that Phantom is a working tool for this kind of operations. You can use it, but the trick is that you have to use one drone and I think 20 batteries for each one. And you can scan areas non-stop. So such volumes as 120,000 of hectares is possible to scan with Phantoms. Usually it was a job for a classic aviation, but with drones you definitely can do this. And the ground sampling distance, it seems that it was around 7 centimeters for this kind of job. And it was RTK, it was made with RTK accuracy. So let's move to the next question. And have there been cases of using a thermal camera in your inspection? Yes, we have done this, and recently we've opened a new possibility, a new market to use drones. It is for mapping of underground thermal grids, thermal energy grids. In Soviet type of cities, in every other part of the world as well, we have plants that are manufacturing heat that is transferred to the buildings and residential buildings with tubes under the ground. And this thermal energy grid is being transferred to the final users. And there is a need to understand the quality of this network. And you have to inspect it regularly. This year, we have started projects in Kiev and in Kharkiv using drones for the underground thermal imagery inspections. And what we do is that we are mapping it. So drones are being used for the mapping of this kind of hot underground communications. Also, you can definitely use as well thermal imagery to map some kind of buildings, areas, etc. And Tatiana will switch. No, Tatiana will not switch. Well, this is a different topic. This is not about mining already. This is about energy efficiency. It is about different aspects of the enterprise solutions work. But for underground communications, it is being used already. And the trick is that you have to use the best possible thermal sensor you can. And it is a job for the 640 resolution thermal sensor. And we have compared XT2 cameras and XTS cameras. For the mapping, we liked more XTS. I know that XTS is not available in all the world. It is for certain half of the world, certain countries, but we liked it more. We found that it has, even with the same kind of sensor, it has better, it seems that it has better resolution when we are looking at the auto photo plants or on the 3D model or on the point cloud that you have been collected using thermal cameras. So, and this was the last question that we have received. If you have anything else, please ask. And it was our pleasure to speak with you today, to share our experience, and we definitely we want to continue, but the time is over. So thank you very much. And I'd like to ask guys from DJI, if you have anything to add, please do so.
And thank you, Valery. Thanks, Tatiana, for this great presentation, and thanks everybody for coming today to join our webinar and gain the knowledge in surveying and mapping. I hope that everybody has already got the answer to their questions, and if you have any other questions, you can contact our solution engineer Simba anytime. We will be happy to answer all your questions. And before we end today's webinar, I have to repeat again about some points about for example, the webinar recording link will be sent the day after today's webinar by email to everybody. And for us to better support you, we will invite you to participate in a quick survey at the following in the following up email. And what about the free DJI Terra Trail? I'm sure that many people are caring about this. We will email to you in 3 months. We'll email to you within a month after today's webinar. And the registrants of the webinar will receive a 20% discount on any DJI Terra license purchased after today's webinar and before end of July. And we will also like to invite you to tune into our next webinar in the series, and we will send you all the information about the upcoming webinars from DJI in the following up emails. So thanks to everybody, and hope you have a nice day today.
Thank you, Chen.